All right, guys. So it's Wednesday and Lori's still on vacation. She'll be back next week. But today we're going to talk. Our focus has been on listings, and not sure if everybody saw Norm's email last Sunday, the 16 killer questions to ask during a listing presentation. And I just thought we maybe want to cover that a little bit. So, who actually read that email? Norm's not on yet, so you can be honest. So, I think these are great questions for you guys to ask during a listing presentation. You know, there's 16 questions that he sent out. And if you did not get that email, please let me know. I'll make sure you get it. I know some people were inadvertently dropped from the distribution list. So if you didn't get that email on Sunday, please let me know. I will verify with our IT company to make sure you're on that distribution list. So, I mean, of course, the first question you should be asking is, why are you selling? It's just to start the small talk, think of questions as you're fine. Whether it's a job relocation, upsize, downsizing, or lifestyle shift. And their answer will shape your tone and urgency and overall strategy to your presentation. Then the next question you should be asking, what's the ideal timeline for your listing and moving? So timing is everything. So that way you can figure out what you need to do as far as maybe scheduling staging, the photos, a launch date, if there's going to be work to be done in the house, if you're going to be putting in a coming soon status, or if you're going to be, putting it, office exclusive. It gives you a sense of urgency of where you need to go with that. And then finding out what matters the most to them in the sale. Is it speed, top dollar, or convenience? This is the question that'll tell you how to position your pitch. If they want speed, then you're going to talk about pre-marketing, buyer matching. It's all about price, walking them through the pricing strategy and negotiating wins. And then find out their experience. So is this the first time they're selling? Because if it's their first time selling, it's just like a first time home buyer. You might need more hand holding and educating them on what it's going to take to get that listing sold and what the market's going to basically show what that house's value and what's selling in the area, so they know what to expect. And then you can always ask that question, how did they hear about you? Finding out if maybe this is your farming area, and hopefully this is your farming area. Maybe they saw one of your flyers, or they saw you walking around the neighborhood, or the neighbor recommended you. Just trying to figure out where they heard about you. And then understand the decision making. Find out who's all going to be involved in there. Will anyone else be involved in the decision making? That's a huge thing, and that goes even with, buying. If they're buying, who's going to be part of that? So, is their parents, is their spouse, is there a better half, whatever. So you need to figure out that and make sure what's their preferred method of communication. Do they prefer text messages, emails? How do they want to be communicated? And that's a big thing to talk about too, because once you have that listing and you're going to be doing, showing time, do they want to get the approvals through email or phone calls or, a text? So make sure you understand how they prefer to be communicated, and then this is where it's time for you to shine as you ask them, how are you planning to compare agents? This is where you can showcase your best, showcase what you're going to do to market that house. What kind of dashboards are going to be the listing's going to be on. Just any tools that you provide to, get that house sold, any marketing campaigns. This is a great opportunity to where you show that you are the premier agent out there. And then basically, then start getting information about the property. Have you made any recent upgrades or renovations? What do you love most about your home? And that's where you could actually take that information that they're talking about, like the upgrades and what they love about. And with our new listing packet, you can make those little table tent stands to put in the certain areas. Maybe you put, hey, upgraded kitchen with new granite countertops, or anything like that. This is where you can help market that home. And then find out what items that won't be included in the sale. Make sure there's no confusion down the road. So just make sure you're very clear on what's there, and if there's anything that they do not want in the house, that they may deal with it then before it gets listed to the public. Then find out if they have any documents like surveys, floor plans. Those are the things that will help be able to provide to the buyer when you're actually doing the marketing and setting everything up. And then you can talk about, your tech savvy marketing prep, the type of photography you're going to do. Are you going to do drone photography, 3D tours, virtual staging? You guys set yourself apart by educating the seller on how these two tools boost online engagement, and back it up with stats if you got them. So, do you use property search sites and apps? If so, what platforms? Find out what they've been using so you can understand that and their digital habits. That gives you insight into how they perceive the value and the visibility. You can also, ask, would you like to track activity on your listing in real time? This way you can highlight seller dashboards, showing reports, buyer feedback tools. The transparency builds confidence and helps reduce late night. Have you heard anything yet text? How many of you have gotten that on one of your listings? Have you heard anything yet? And then the last question, is there anything else you'd like me to cover today, or any concerns on your mind? This open-ended closer uncovers any last-minute objective or gaps in the presentation, also proves your listing and not just pitching. You just need to put this all together and make sure that remember, when you're asking these questions, always be listening and taking that information, and it helps you guide your listing presentation through that. But Norm sent this out on Sunday. I thought it was a great little reminder. What questions do you guys have? Is there any other questions that you guys might use during your listing presentation that you like to share with the team?
I would say, and Norm would say this too, like ask the seller, would you mind giving me a tour of your home as if I was a buyer, because then they'll highlight all the things that are important to them, and you can use those things when you write your marketing, info, because that they're highlighting it to you, so you should remember that you should highlight it to the public, right? Because that's what they like. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Great question, Josie. Anybody else?
One of the things, the listing presentation is probably the most important thing, because when you have a good listing presentation, it gives you the confidence to go out, prospect for the business, because you know that your listing presentation is better than anybody else's. I remember I studied with this guy who went around the country and listened to top agent listing presentations. And each one of them had an outline of what they were going to talk about in the presentation. A lot of people would say, well, it's canned, nobody's going to pay attention to it. Well, these are top agents, and they knew their listing presentation. They made it their own. This one top agent, he walks in, I won't go into all the details, but he says, look, folks, I'm not here to list your house this evening. I'm not here to list your house. And they go, well, what are you here for? He said, I'm here to sell it. And if any time during this presentation or during the time we have it on the market, you decide you don't want to sell it, just let me know. I'm not here to list it. So that was his first introduction, and he had a complete outline of his listing presentation, which is one of the best I've ever seen. So one of our agents went out and he practiced his listing presentation 25 times. He called friends and relatives and said, can I practice my listing presentation on you? And a number of them said yes. And he got really, really good at his listing presentation. So having that listing presentation, knowing that listing presentation is really, really key. And my goal at a listing presentation, let me ask you guys, what is your goal at a listing presentation? Anybody want to volunteer? No volunteers. Okay. My goal at a listing presentation is to determine if I want the listing or not. I'm interviewing, they don't know it, but I'm interviewing them just as well as they're interviewing me. Because if they're not going to do what they need to do to get the house sold, I work too hard. I work too hard as an agent, and I'd rather turn them down than let them down, is my saying. If you're not going to make the house look great, if you're not going to price it right, if you're not going to do the things necessary to get it sold, I can't help you. So I would tell people, look, folks, I'd rather turn you down than let you down. And I would get up and walk away. So instead of spending a lot of time on a listing that will not sell.
Thanks, Darn. Yeah, and just remember, guys, sellers are just not looking for an agent to list their home. They want someone that's going to be an advisor, a strategist, a digital marketer, someone that they have faith in, and someone that is going to work with them as a team to get their house sold. So just remember that, and building that relationship will go a long way. It's just like when you're dealing with for sale by owners. If you're calling for sale by owners, you're not calling them. When you call me, you say, I know you're getting calls from other agents too. I'm not here to list your house. And you go into one of the scripts that we have. If I had a buyer for your house, or where are you moving to? There's different scripts for sale by owners, but we're running out of time, so we'll cover that maybe next week. So just remember, we have Canva training today at Big Bend. Katie Helms is doing it. And we're going to have some exciting news about Canva here in the near future too. So right now, if you're coming to the training, make sure you signed up for your free account and come, and Katie's going to walk you through all that. Any questions for me, guys, before we wrap this up today? All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I hope you guys all have a great Wednesday, and hopefully I will see you. Yeah.
The happy hour this afternoon.
Oh, yes. We do have a happy hour at Helen Fitzgerald's at 4:00. So if you guys are available, come on by. It's in Sunset Hills right there, 44 and Lindbergh. All right, guys, have a great day. Thanks for joining.